Over to the NFL, where the potential landing spot for Shedeur Sanders in the upcoming draft has everyone talking, including his father, Deion Sanders. The Hall of Famer recently said that he's happy with any of the teams his son lands on, whether it's the Giants, Titans, Browns, or Raiders. Deion will be happy because he knows what his son brings to the organization. True Deion Sanders fashion right there. We now welcome our senior NFL writer, Jeremy Fowler, and our NFL analyst, Louis Riddick. And Jeremy, I'll start with you. Shedeur Sanders is widely expected to have his name called at the beginning of the draft next month. What are you hearing about interest in Sanders atop of the draft?
Yeah, I mean, the people I've talked to believe that Shedeur Sanders is under consideration in that top three. You're talking Browns at 2, Giants at 3, although Abdul Carter, the pass rusher, seems to have momentum a little bit for the Browns at 2. Here's the tricky part with Sanders. Before I walked in here, I texted with a half dozen or so high-level personnel people with teams. I asked them a simple question. Do you have a first-round grade on Shedeur Sanders? Meaning, do you see him as a first-round talent? 4 said no, more of a second-rounder. 2 said yes, that he's a mid to late first-round pick for them. So we all know quarterbacks get pushed up. That's the way it goes. He's certainly worthy, it looks like, of a first-round pick. But to go in the top 3, that's what teams are grappling with right now. They see Cam Ward as that type of player. They don't see Sanders as that. So maybe the Saints at 9, if he starts to fall a little bit. They've been doing a lot of homework on quarterbacks. Yeah. Somebody will stop him if he does fall out of there. Yeah, that is interesting because some mock drafts have him going as late as 26 into a contender in the NFC. Louis, do you see Sanders falling to the Saints, though, at number 9?
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. Because, look, this whole process, as Jeremy is alluding to, is very subjective. And you can get 10 different scouts and get 10 different opinions. There may be some scouts who have him all the way down 3rd, 4th round, like where Dak Prescott was drafted for the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of varying opinions with him. But all it takes is one organization to feel as though he has the requisite makeup, he has the requisite arm strength, and he has the requisite, upside to be worthy of being drafted in the top 10. And the Saints may very well be one of those teams. Look, I know right now the Saints they're watching Jackson Dart work out as we speak down at Ole Miss. I mean, the Raiders at 6, are they really out of the picture right now as far as quarterback is concerned with Geno Smith? I know that is a place that Deion would love to see Shedeur wind up. So, yeah, I think all these different teams are in play. And if he does slip past 9 and slips out of the top 10, there's no way you're going to tell me that Pittsburgh won't be eyeing him along with Tyler Shuck, as they sit down there at 21. He'll find a home, but your guess is as good as mine as far as what teams ultimately view him as and what price they're willing to pay in order to secure his services.
Yeah, we'll see all that talent on display at Colorado's Pro Day next Friday. And Jeremy, another quarterback that we've been monitoring, Aaron Rodgers, of course, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and whether or not he's going to choose to play in Pittsburgh. It's been a week since his visit. How patient are the Steelers going to be with this situation?
They're willing to be pretty patient. My sense is the Steelers remain optimistic here, and they are willing to wait. In fact, I've talked to several people in the quarterback market, including in and around Russell Wilson's free agency, who just figured that the Steelers must have gotten some sort of loose assurance from Rodgers at some point that he was going to play there. But it feels like right now the options are Steelers, retirement, or does he want to just wait 3 to 4 months on the Vikings to see if they change their mind, which seems unlikely at this point. So the Steelers appear all in. I know they're doing a lot of homework on draft-eligible quarterbacks to potentially pull the trigger on one of those. But they still have their sights set on Rodgers. Timeline still is very loose here to figure that out.
Very loose and very vague when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. And Louis, should the Steelers have a deadline for Aaron Rodgers at some point?
Yeah, I think ideally you would like to. You don't want to have this kind of like lingering out there forever. But look, I understand, how patient they're willing to be, especially considering, when they're projecting forward, relative to how he played last year at the end of the season and what they've been able to do with their offense and the pieces that they've added to their offense this year, why they're willing to be more patient. And number 2, I'll tell you what, I think Pittsburgh, regardless, they have to be doing their homework on the draft-eligible quarterbacks and looking at who they possibly could bring into the fold as a long-term solution. So I think there's 2 things that right now Pittsburgh is dealing with. 1, do we put a timeline on Pittsburgh on Aaron Rodgers? Is it necessary to put a timeline on him? And 2, does it really matter? Because you know what? Right now, all of our efforts are really focused in on making sure our draft board is straight. So when it comes time for us to pick 21, do we already feel comfortable that we should sit here at 21 and wait for someone to fall to us? Do we need to move up if we want to secure a quarterback? If a guy like Shedeur Sanders starts to fall, or if we really like Tyler Shuck, do we want to move back? I think that's where their focus is right now. And it does, I can understand why maybe they'd be willing to be a little bit more patient anyway.
Yeah, a lot of different factors when it comes to this Aaron Rodgers situation. Everyone just waiting to see what happens. Jeremy and Lewis with the latest. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
It's going to last a few more years. The Buffaloes and Coach Deion Sanders have agreed to a new 5-year contract extension worth $54 million. The deal keeps Sanders in Boulder through the 2029 season and makes him one of the highest paid coaches in the country. Last year, in his second season at Colorado, Sanders won 9 games, the program's first winning season since 2016.
We are less than a month away from the NFL draft, and the top picks are holding their pro days in preparation for April 24th. Today, it is Penn State's turn. However, edge rusher Abdul Carter did not work out at PSU's pro day as he continues to rehab an injury he sustained in the college football playoff. Carter is slated to go in the top 3 and likely be the first defensive player taken off the board, according to Mel Kiper. But teams will have to wait a little longer to see Carter in action. Here is Brooke Pryor checking in with Abdul.
Abdul didn't work out here at Pro Day today, but how's the shoulder and how's the foot feeling?
I'm feeling good, pretty much 100% now.
How difficult was it to make the decision to not work out here, especially after seeing guys your whole career come through and have their pro days?
Yeah, it was definitely my intention to come out here and compete, work out with my guys. But just talking to my team, making sure we're making the best decision for me. Wasn't able to work out, but I'm out here to support my guys, so it's all good for me.
With the foot, that was something that popped up at the Combine. What was your reaction when you see the test results come back and they say, hey, you've got a stress reaction in your foot?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I found out when they found out. But I know my body. I wasn't feeling any pain, didn't feel any symptoms during the season, not feeling any symptoms now. So I knew no surgery was needed. But I'm just going through it right now and getting my body right. But I pretty much knew there was nothing wrong with me.
Well, she's there, so let's talk more about it. Here's our NFL reporter, Brooke Pryor. She obviously made the trip from Pittsburgh to Happy Valley for today's pro day. And so what more can you tell us about Abdul Carter's last 24 hours since his decision not to participate today?
Well, Abdul Carter last night got dinner with the Cleveland Browns, a large contingent from the Cleveland Browns at a restaurant called The Tavern, just about a mile from where we are right now at the indoor practice facility. I asked him if this was a chance for him to make his pitch for the Browns to pick him at number 2 overall, and he said no, it was more about them getting to know him and his family and the environment that he's been in for the last couple of years going to Penn State. He said that he felt pretty close to 100% as he's felt recently, but he said that he just made the decision that it was the right thing for him to not work out today. So I checked in with some people around the league if this was a significant decision for him to not participate in pro day and if that could impact his draft stock. And his one coach told me, absolutely not. Dude's a freak.
All right, let's go back to the Browns thing, because I know Browns fans have had some issues on the offensive side of the ball, but they're probably listening to this thinking, my goodness, Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett together, that is something to be excited about. Thank you so much, Brooke. Let's continue this conversation now with NFL analyst Louis Riddick. And Louis, we heard Brooke talk about the issues that he's dealing with in terms of injuries, a shoulder issue, also recovering from that stress reaction in his right foot. Is Carter's tape good enough to overlook these injury issues, despite him saying he feels 100%?
Yeah, look, as long as your medical team tells you that there's nothing to worry about whatsoever as far as both his short-term and long-term prospects, you say, look, the tape is what it is. I mean, we have seen what this young man has done from 23 to 24 as far as transitioning to a 4-down lineman with his hand in the ground and becoming one of the most feared pass rushers in all of college football, really, that we have seen in the past decade as far as Penn State players are